There's a passage in Thomas Merton's Seven-Story Mountain I've always loved. Merton, of course, is probably the greatest spiritual writer of the last century. In his autobiography now, he's just become a Catholic. He's walking down Fifth Avenue in New York with his best friend Robert Lax, who's also just become a Catholic. Lax turns to Merton and says, "Tom, what do you want out of life?" He stops and says, "Well, I guess I want to be a good Catholic." Lax says, "That's not it. You should want to be a saint." Merton stopped. A saint? But that comment revolutionized his life and set Merton on the path that would take him eventually into the Trappist monastery. Léon Blois is a French spiritual writer from the last century. He said this: "There's only one real sadness in life, not to be a saint. All the other things we consider sadnesses, failures and lost relationships and disappointments, well, they're real, but those aren't the real sadnesses. The only real one is not to find God's will for your life and to do it, not to be a saint." Many of you know that Thomas Aquinas is my hero. His sister one day asked him, "What must I do to be a saint?" He said, "Will it. Desire it. Want it." To some degree, our problem is an acceptance of spiritual mediocrity. The ordinary goal of the Christian life, the ordinary goal of all the baptized, is to be a saint. You know what that means? It means to be a friend of God. That's how Aquinas defines it. To be God's friend. To make the relationship with God the central fact of one's life. That's what it means to be a saint. Now, I think sanctity displays itself according to three paths. And that'll be the structure of my talks today. Being a saint looks like something. It looks first like finding the center. In all the great spiritual masters, their lives are centered unambiguously on Jesus Christ. Next, to be a saint means to know you are a sinner. When you stand in the light of Christ, you're more, not less aware of your sin. You're more, not less willing to acknowledge the fact that you're a sinner. And finally, to be a saint means to realize your life is not about you. It's your life, yes it is, God's gift, but it's not about you. It's about God's purposes. To be a saint means to be drawn into the center, which is Christ. It means to be healed by Christ, the healer. And finally, it means to be sent on mission. So these three paths now will structure the talks I'm going to give.